All right, welcome to lesson 10.3, which is all about equivalent expressions. Our objective for this lesson is that I can use properties of operations to write equivalent expressions. All right, so what are equivalent expressions? Equivalent expressions are different expressions that have the same value. For example, if I have 3 plus 8. 3 plus 8 is going to give me 11. And if I have 3 plus 4 plus 4, 3 plus 4 is 7. 7 plus 4 is 11. So notice 3 plus 4 plus 4 and 3 plus 8 are equivalent expressions. Both of these add up to 11. They're equivalent to each other, even though they use slightly different numbers. We're going to use properties of operations to help us find equivalent expressions. And there's 4 different properties that we're going to look at. The first one is called commutative property. Commutative property tells us that when adding or multiplying, the order does not change the answer. Let's look at a couple examples. So let's look at an adding example. 2 plus 5 is 7. If I switch the order and put the 5 first, do I get a different answer? No. 5 plus 2 is still 7. So commutative property tells us that we can switch the order and still get the same answer for adding and multiplying. Let's double check with a multiplying example. 2 times 5 is 10. If we flip the order, 5 times 2, we get the same answer. So even though we switch the order, we get the same answer. So commutative property tells us that when only adding or multiplying, we can flip our numbers around and it won't change our answer. If you're subtracting or dividing, it will change your answer. So that's commutative property. Let's talk about associative property. Again, when adding or multiplying, more than 2 numbers, the grouping does not change the answer. All right, a good example of associative property. Let's say that I have 2 plus, and then I'm going to make a group, 1 plus 4. Well, 1 plus 4 is 5, so this becomes 2 plus 5, which equals 7. But let's move my group. What if I change my group? So I have 2 plus 1, and I make that a group, and I put the plus 4 on the outside. 2 plus 1 is 3. 3 plus 4 equals 7. So when I rearrange my groups, I still get the same answer. Same thing with multiplying. 2 times 1 times, actually we'll make this a 4, times 3. 4 times 3 is 12. 2 times 12 is 24. But what if I group it differently and put my parentheses around 2 times 4 and put the times 3 outside? Well, 2 times 4 is 8. 8 times 3 is 24. So the associative property tells us that we get the same answer even if we rearrange what we multiply or add first. Distributive property, we've kind of already talked about distributive property. So distributive property tells us that multiplying a number by the sum or difference is the same as multiplying each number and then adding or subtracting. Let's look at an example. If I have 3 times the sum of 2 plus 5, I'm going to write this twice. We're going to do it two ways. 3 times 2 plus 5. Now when you see a number outside parentheses next to something going on in there, that tells us we are going to multiply. So 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 5 is 15. 6 plus 15 is 21. But what if we go ahead and add first? 2 plus 5 is 7. 3 times 7 is 21. So whether you multiply or distribute first or add first and then multiply, you get the same answer. The order doesn't change. All right, lastly, we're going to look at identity property. The identity property is something you kind of already know. We just haven't named it yet. Identity property is in two parts. The first part is for adding and subtracting. So, adding or subtracting 0 does not change a number's value. 2 plus 0 equals 2. This plus 0 didn't do anything. 6 minus 0 equals 6. This minus 0 didn't do anything. We get the same number at the end that we started with. So identity property for adding or subtracting says that 0 doesn't change it. The other half of identity property is for multiplying or dividing a number by 1 does not change its value. 3 times 1 is still 3. This times 1 doesn't change it. 17 divided by 1 is still 17. This divided by 1 doesn't change the value. All right, go ahead and jump into your practice. Let me know if you have questions.